Well, my engine problem's unsolved. It looks very much like my Etec here has got a blocked injector. So what I'm going to do is take the injectors off, go home and clean them. I have also just noticed that there's a weep hole next to the water inlet, and it's weeping gear case oil, and it's got water in it. So that's another thing that's going to have to be done. That's going to have to be done out of the water. So this is going to be a bit of an involved repair, this one. I'm going to fit this external water separator just to filter the fuel, make sure no water ever does get in there. It's got a drain tap on the bottom to get it out. That's nice. Alright, so I'm back at the mothership with the injector. Right, the idea is here, you've got to pull the injector out of the housing. Handily there is like a bolt hole, so I've got a bit of threaded, well it's a bolt actually, cut off bolt, 6mm, and then it's got a couple of nuts on it. My idea is to get this pry bar and stick it between the two nuts and hopefully pop it out. Apparently it's not pressed in very hard. Nice. Oh, it doesn't look too bad, to be honest. So it's got these little screens, obviously like little tiny fuel filters, and they look totally clean. And it's absolutely spotless inside there, totally clean. I've got my injector back. I took it home and I put it in an ultrasonic cleaner, so theoretically it should be really clean. But the thing was, when I took it out of the engine, it looked spotless. Like, it didn't look like an injector that is having a problem by being blocked, if you know what I mean. It's like, yeah, it doesn't look like a dirty injector at all. It's got these little screens all the way around it, and the external ones were so clean. They couldn't be blocked. Anyway, I'll just, I'll go back to basics a little bit, and I'll have a look at the spark plug, because where that actually sits in relation to the injector is important, and it's possible that when I put new plugs in that I haven't aligned it correctly, that might be causing an issue, or this might just be a bad injector, which does happen. And they're like, I can get one, it's about £400, bring out another 1,000. But the thing is, if you pay somebody else to do it, it literally would be in the thousands, these sort of repairs. So I'm going to have to fix this boat engine issue. I'm going to have to fix it myself, because I'm not spending thousands of pounds on a boat. That's definitely an unnecessary luxury. Hedonism on a shoestring, that's my motto in life. It's like, look, live the champagne lifestyle for lemonade money. Let's see what we can do. The spark plug looks clean. I'm just going to put the injector back in now and see what it runs like on the diagnostics. Then I'll swap it over with another cylinder's injector. Got the engine running, I put it back together. It's running like a bag of spanners, but it is running, and I think it's running on 3 cylinders. I've got the diagnostic gone, and it's not coming up as any active fault, but like I say, it is running like a bag of spanners. The way it's running at the moment, it just sounds like it isn't tuned. Like the timing's out slightly, but this could be the spark plugs. But I've just given it a little bit of beans into reverse, and it's definitely not in safe mode anymore, because I got full acceleration. Alright, so injector 1 is actually working for sure, because look at this test here. If we disable it, it's not running at all. What's happening there? There we go, injector 1's back. We disable 2, same thing, it affects the performance. If we disable 3, same thing, it affects the performance. and it comes back when we stop the test. Okay, that's running on 3, but it's running rough. Yeah, this is pinpointable now. So it's a new dawn and a new day. I've been stewing on this board problem overnight. So anyway, I got to thinking, right, I tested the injectors by swapping them over yesterday, and the fault didn't follow the injector. So basically there's nothing wrong with the injectors. When I tried them in another port, it was the fault was in the one cylinder, or cylinder number 1. Anyway, so cut a long story short is I'm thinking, well, why would that injector obviously works, but why is it not actually working? It's either the EMM, the thing that controls it, the management program that controls it, or it's got to be another reason. What do they require, these injectors? Now what it turns out is that they require 55 volts. There's 2 electrical systems inside the engine. One is for 12 volt and one is for 55, because the injectors, they're really like, they draw high voltage. And I'm thinking, well, hang on a minute, so I've got a new battery on this boat. But anyway, I went to the battery, and today I've brought another battery down, and I'm thinking, well, that low battery voltage would stop the injector firing, or maybe even leave it open. So I've brought this another battery down, and I'm just hooked it up, and it's ran without any problems for like a few minutes. So it's not logging at any fault codes live or occurred, and yeah, it looks okay. It's running slightly rough and it's got a slight misfire, but I know exactly why that is, because in the process of all this fiddling on, some of the spark plugs in there weren't indexed properly. They weren't pointing at the injector itself. So what was happening is when the injector squirts fuel into the combustion chamber, the spark plug just gets drenched if it's the wrong way around. So that's probably what that is. So I'll sort those out now and keep testing it, and then yeah, the codes are not coming back. So this could be just as simple as a bad battery. So I have gone the long way around. If this is ultimately the solution, and I don't want to sort of curse it too far, I don't want to count my chickens before they're hatched, but if this does turn out to be the solution, that all I had to do was change the battery, then I mean, it is a lesson, because I'm not like that mechanically minded. I'm basically doing this from a novice's point of view, and I'm just like, I'm working it out for myself. So what I've just learned about the engine through this process is going to be invaluable. Now I know how to clean the injectors. I know how to take the coils off, and you know, like align the spark plugs properly, and I know so much more now just from going through this little misadventure, which I don't mind at all, as long as hopefully the end result is that I can be back there on the water as quick as possible. The lesson I've learned is, if at all avoidable, don't do anything over the flipping water, because I've lost like so many little bits. Luckily, hopefully nothing essential so far, but some of the mounting bolts for the coil packs, I've lost them, so I'm going to have to manufacture some new ones. So I've aligned all the spark plugs and tightened everything up and made sure everything's sitting nicely and that it's installed the way it was when I took it all to pieces. I've had to manufacture a couple of little fittings myself, but you live and learn. Right, so I'm going to turn it on first time. Hopefully that's I won't get that open circuit again, because there'll be enough supply going to the injector. Normally what it does after you turn it on, it idles a second or two, and then the fuel map kicks in, and there we go, and it starts to rev smoothly. Let's see what the computer says. So now the active fault, the open circuits come back. Okay, so further developments. I've just pulled the injector out again. I wanted to pull the end off the little nozzle, which I didn't want to do in case I damaged it, but I thought, hey ho, I'm in this for. So anyway, I've got it off, and it was a little bit stuck, so it's got a very small amount of play on that spring. You'll not be able to see it because GoPro will not focus, but now that I've just cleaned it up a little bit with some WD-40, it feels like it's actually like opening again, whereas before it was stuck. So I swapped the injectors over, and look what's happened. Cylinder 2 fuel injector now has got an open circuit, so basically what that means is that injector that was on cylinder 1 is bad. So I think they're not cheap, like it's about 370 quid, but it could have been a lot worse. So if this is all it is, I'm going to have to suck that up. Alright, so I've definitely identified this as being the bad injector. I've done that by putting it in another cylinder, and the fault code that it showed went to that other cylinder. So instead of saying open circuit cylinder 1, it said open circuit cylinder 2, which is where I put this bad injector. I tested all of the resistance on these when they were on the boat, and unless I made some sort of mistake, I'm pretty sure I got all within the right range. They're about 3.2. So I've just tested it again, because I thought, well, I'll bring the injector home, clean it up, and see if I can, see if it's salvageable. Obviously before I buy another one, because they are quite expensive. And now I'm just doing a resistance test, and I'm getting like 40 ohms. So that suggests that it's maybe stuck open, or it's just absolutely knackered. So I thought what I'd do, I'd just take it to pieces, since it's obviously a write-off. To test it, I'm going to put a 12 volt supply across it and see whether it can actuate the injector. But there's a little red, to get to the actual terminals in there, you've got to take a plastic covering out. So to do that, I've just bent a little piece of wire, and I'm trying to stick it in and then just lever that thing out. Here we go. Right, that's it. There we go. There's two little barbs inside that hold the connector in. Okay, to actually do this, what I had to do was take my piece of wire and sharpen it on the grinder, and then you've got to put it in the hole behind the two pins and press it in quite firmly. It's a bit of a ball ache. Finally got them out. That was a real pain. So yeah, there's no easy way to do that. It's just a case of sticking your little prong down and trying to poke around. Maybe if you've got better near sight than I've got, then you might be able to do it. Anyway, still, this injector is so clean. But it's obviously like an intermittent electrical fault. So I'm going to try and actuate it. By doing that, I'm going to tape some, just a couple of bits of wire, and then put this onto a battery. And then see if I can like mimic the pulses that it gets by just touching the battery terminal. Okay, so I've got two bits of wire running from a battery. On here, the white cable is the positive, the other one is ground. Alright, now I'm going to take the nozzle off. You do this at your own risk, because if you basically damage the surface here, this is where it mates into the cylinder itself, so if you damage that, you're going to lose that seal. So the best way to do this is probably with a vise. Just put it in, clamp it up, and then just carefully twist it out. All you're trying to do is remove this nozzle here. I don't have a vise, so I'm going to use these mole grips and be really careful. I can feel it turning, that's it. Yeah, so the worst thing you can do is to damage that. If you damage that, your whole injector's jiggered, you need a new one. Right, there's a tiny little screen inside. And these have got like a plastic outer, so you've got to be really careful. It should have come out easier than that. The injector itself is opening, so if you press the spring at the bottom, it does open a fraction. I don't believe these to open very far anyway. So it's not stuck open. This looks like it's just a dead injector. So it's going to go into some petrol. Just covers, just almost, well, it covers the plastic screens. Yeah, well. Now over here, obviously I'm observing health and safety here. I've got my fire extinguisher because that's petrol and this could create a spark. So if you just touch it, against the terminal. Now obviously you can hear that clicking. That is actually working to some extent. There's the little ball in the middle. That should be filling up with each little pulse of the injector. That should be filling up with fuel, but it doesn't look like anything's happening to mine. So that's not pumping any fuel. All it's doing is it's actuating the bottom of the injector, but it's not actually squeezing any fuel through where it should go. So let's take that screen out and see why not. As far as I understand, I don't think there's much you can do to these other than clean them. They're not really very serviceable. I'm not going to get that out without ruining it. I mean, that's spotless. It's really not dirty at all. Try and actuate it again and see, just to confirm that ball isn't getting filled up. Yeah, it's just a totally sealed unit. There's no way to open it up. Oh well, I'm going to go and order a new injector. So, gasket on. Problem is, it's been so long since I've done this, I've forgotten how I did it. Luckily, when I got the injector, it came with 2 new bolts, because I did lose one of them over the side when I took it off. Settings refer to the service manual, but basically I'm just putting them back on the same tightness, same tension as what I took them off. When you do them up, make sure you do the bottom bolt up first. So as far as I can remember, that's it all back together now. I need to fix this. There's a wire with a bit of the cable's worn through. I fixed it with some hot glue, like somebody suggested in a comment. Fuel filter's clean. So I took this petrol tank home and washed it out. I'm going to save the fuel that it was in it though, because it was pretty clean. Okay, so I've primed it now. We'll give it a turn over and see if it goes. Okay, it goes. So I've replaced the coefficient file for the injector number 1, and I'm going to start it up. Hopefully it goes well. Alright, so that's the first part of the repair done. It seems to be okay. It's not running 100% as smoothly as I think it was before, but I think that might be a spark plug issue. They might not be lined up correctly, or it might be due a new set. Other than that, I think it's okay to progress now with the second part of the repair, which is the lower gear case unit. So that has to come off, and I'm going to do all the seals in that. But for that to happen, I need to get the boat out of the water, and to do that, I'm going to have to go on a little bit of a mission.